At the outset, Ambassador Peter Wittig will make a joint statement on behalf of the chairs of the committee, pursuant to Resolution 1267 and 1989, and the committees established pursuant to Resolution 1373 and 1540. Ambassador Wittig will then brief in his capacity as chair of the Security Council Committee, pursuant to Resolution 1267 and 1989, concerning Al-Qaeda and associated individuals and entities, to be followed by briefings by the chairs of the committees established pursuant to Resolution 1373 and 1540. I now give the floor to Ambassador Wittig.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you said, I will have the pleasure to make various statements today, three as a matter of fact. First, on behalf of the three subsidiary bodies, then immediately afterwards on behalf of the Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee, and later on in the debate, a statement in my national capacity. Mr. President, on behalf of the chairpersons of the three subsidiary bodies of the Security Council, established pursuant to Resolutions 1267 and 1989, 1373 and 1540, I have the honor to update the Security Council on the continuing cooperation among the three committees and their expert groups as requested by the Council in its Resolution 1989, 1963 and 1977 and earlier resolutions. For the sake of brevity, I will focus my remarks on the most relevant strategic aspects. A more detailed version of this statement will be distributed as hard copy today and made available on the committee's website. Mr. President, terrorism and the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction continue to pose a serious threat to international peace and security. It remains important to maintain close cooperation and effective coordination between the Counter-Terrorism Committee, the Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee, and the committee established pursuant to Resolution 1540, as well as between their respective groups of experts. The three committees continue to attach great importance to the coordination and cooperation between the Counter-Terrorism Committee Executive Directorate, CTAD, the monitoring team of the Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee, and the group of experts assisting the 1540 Committee. The committees welcome the continuing efforts of the expert groups to cooperate on outreach activities and country visits within the respective mandates, to enhance cooperation with international, regional, and sub-regional organizations, and to increase exchange of information, participate in joint meetings, and maintain reciprocal representation as appropriate. I'm pleased to report that cooperation between the expert groups has increased in some areas. The details are outlined in the hard copy that will be distributed. At the same time, the committees see further room for improvement regarding cooperation and cost effectiveness. The expert groups should further enhance their cooperation in line with their respective mandates, in particular with regard to their outreach activities. The committees note with concern that terrorist groups continue to seek to exploit gaps in the capacity of member states to fully implement counterterrorism measures. The committee's groups of experts can play a pertinent role in advising states seeking assistance in building counter-terrorism capacity. Mr. President, the committees welcome all efforts aimed at enhancing the visibility of the United Nations counter-terrorism activities, as well as ensuring greater cooperation, coordination, and coherence among United Nations entities with a view to promoting transparency and avoiding duplication. And they take note of the recommendation of the Secretary General for member states to consider to appoint a United Nations counter-terrorism coordinator, and in this regard look forward to the discussions on this initiative, including with their deliberations on further improving cross-institutional coherence of the United Nations counter-terrorism efforts. Mr. President, let me now come to my second statement in my capacity as chair of the Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee. In today's briefing, as chairman of the Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee, I would like to provide an update on the activities and achievements of the committee pursuant to Resolution 1267 in 1989 concerning Al-Qaeda and associated individuals and entities since my last briefing in November 2011. In my remarks, I shall focus with what the committee considers to be the most important elements. Number one, the evolving nature of the threat posed by Al-Qaeda. Number two, enhancing implementation of the sanctions measures. And number three, fair and clear procedures. A more detailed version of this statement will be distributed as hard copy today and made available on the committee's website. Mr. President, my first point on the nature and threat posed by Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda and its associates continue to pose a threat to international peace and security, and this threat continues to evolve. As such, it is important for member states to continue making every effort to fully implement the measures outlined in 1989. At the same time, the committee remains committed to ensuring that the Al-Qaeda sanctions list is dynamic and responsive to the changing nature of the threat. The committee's decisions related to listing and delisting are based on requests by member states. In this context, the committee recalls that it remains the responsibility of all member states to ensure that the list of targeted individuals and entities accurately reflects the evolving threat posed by Al-Qaeda through the submission of listing and delisting requests in a timely manner. Mr. President, my second point on implementation. The committee recalls that counterterrorism measures adopted under Chapter 7 are binding to all member states. The committee notes with concern that Al-Qaeda and associated terrorist groups seek to exploit gaps in the capacity of member states to fully implement counterterrorist measures as requested by the Security Council. The committee continues to explore new ways to collaborate with member states to support implementation efforts. The committee realizes that prompt, effective implementation of sanctions measures is best achieved when the sanctions list is accurate, up-to-date, and user-friendly. First, a new format for the list designed to facilitate harmonization across all Security Council sanctions regimes has been approved by the committee. And second, the committee is conducting reviews outlined in Resolution 1989 in a streamlined fashion, in particular regarding reportedly deceased individuals and defunct entities or entries that lack sufficient identifiers. Mr. President, the committee relies on the cooperation of member states for the successful conduct of these reviews. The committee will continue to make every effort to devise review modalities that will allow for an effective and credible review process without overburdening member states. The committee has held preliminary discussions on the recommendations submitted by the monitoring team in its 12th report. The committee will transmit the monitoring team's report to the Security Council once it has concluded its consideration and will provide the Council with the committee's position on the recommendations. The monitoring team continues to support the work of the committee, including through outreach activities, engaging with individual states, and participating in conferences. In doing so, the team promotes the work of the committee to a wider audience and encourages implementation. Mr. President, on my third point on fair and clear procedures. The Security Council decision to establish and enhance the Office of the Ombudsperson continues to be a milestone in the field of targeted sanctions. The Ombudsperson is mandated to assist the committee in safeguarding the rights of listed individuals to a fair, independent, and effective process. The committee has successfully established a transparent practice for processing recommendations on delisting petitions submitted through the Ombudsperson's office. In 15 cases that were submitted through the office of the Ombudsperson, the committee has completed its consideration, resulting in 13 individuals and 23 entities being removed from the list. Currently, 4 comprehensive reports on the Ombudsperson are under consideration by the committee, and for further details, I advise you to consider and consult the website of the Ombudsperson. In Resolution 1989, the Security Council has set out clear guidance for this process, among these the timelines for the Ombudsperson and the committee. The committee remains committed to observing these, since they are considered to be fundamental elements of fairness. For the same reason, the committee attaches great importance for providing a rationale for its decisions. In concluding, Mr. President, the Ombudsperson process is producing tangible results by further enhancing fair and clear procedures. Finally, as Chair and in the name of the committee, I would like to thank all Member States for their continued willingness to cooperate constructively with the committee, its monitoring team, and the Office of the Ombudsperson. The committee has brought many improvements to fruition in recent years and remains committed to building upon these advancements. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank Ambassador Wittig for his joint statement and briefing.